Good evening. From Paris tonight, France finds itself on the edge of a defining political moment. Prime Minister François Bayrou has issued one of the starkest warnings of his career, declaring that the coming days will determine not just the survival of his government, but, in his words, the fate of France. The stage is set for a confidence vote in the National Assembly on September 8th, a showdown born out of a bitter budget standoff that has paralysed France's political establishment and divided its parliament. While Bayrou has insisted the vote is not about him personally, it is widely expected he will lose. What comes next could reshape France's political future. During a lengthy television interview broadcast simultaneously across 4 major French news channels, Bayrou delivered his remarks with a mix of urgency and defiance. Facing both political allies and opponents who are already manoeuvring for the aftermath, he chose to address the French people directly. François Bayrou said, "At issue is not the fate of the Prime Minister or of François Bayrou, and not even the fate of the government. At issue is the fate of France, because you see what is brewing, what is on display every day. If the government falls, as they want it, as they call for, then policies will change. What for me is a vital policy for the country would be dropped." It was a carefully chosen message, one that framed the confidence vote as far larger than a question of parliamentary arithmetic or party politics. Bayrou is asking the public to see his fight as inseparable from the nation's trajectory. The September 8th vote has been triggered by disagreements over France's budget, a document that is supposed to map out the country's economic priorities, spending programmes and fiscal discipline. Instead, it has become a battlefield between the government and opposition parties, particularly the Socialists and the far-left France Unbowed. Bayrou, who leads the centrist government, has insisted that his fiscal programme is necessary to protect France's long-term stability. His critics argue the opposite, accusing him of imposing austerity measures that will harm ordinary citizens while failing to tackle structural inequalities. In the interview, Bayrou doubled down, insisting that the battles he has chosen to fight cannot be abandoned. François Bayrou declared, "I believe the days ahead will be crucial. And secondly, if you think that I can give up the battles that I fight, that I am fighting here, that I have been fighting for years, and that I will continue to fight in the future, you are mistaken. What does Olivier Faure want? He is going to Matignon. He said so, he announced it. He is going to move in here with a cabinet that won't include France Unbowed." By invoking Olivier Faure, the leader of the Socialist Party, Bayrou made clear his view of what is at stake. To him, this is not just about budget numbers, but about who governs France, with what philosophy and at what cost. Despite his combative tone, Bayrou also positioned himself as open to dialogue. But as he explained, his willingness comes with strict conditions. François Bayrou said, "I am open to discussion on one condition that is non-negotiable, which is the fate of the country. I think we cannot do nothing. And proposals announced by the Social Party amount to doing nothing." Here, the Prime Minister's frustration was evident. He portrayed the socialist platform as empty gestures, accusing them of failing to provide meaningful solutions to France's pressing challenges, from public debt to investment in key sectors such as education, energy and defence. This line of argument underscores Bayrou's broader strategy: to position himself not merely as a political operator, but as a statesman defending France's future against what he sees as the complacency of his rivals. Bayrou did not shy away from acknowledging the fragility of his position. For him, the fate of governments past provides a cautionary tale. Without sufficient public support, bold policy becomes impossible. François Bayrou warned, "If I don't receive minimal support from the French and from those who represent them, then no bold policy will be possible. You will have to retreat on every measure." This happened to previous governments. And then ultimately you lose a vote of confidence. In other words, he is fully aware that his survival depends on more than procedural manoeuvres inside Parliament. It depends on convincing both lawmakers and ordinary French citizens that his vision of fiscal discipline and reform is worth defending. Confidence votes in France are rare but deeply symbolic. They evoke memories of political crises that shook the Fifth Republic in decades past. Most recently, Emmanuel Macron's governments faced no confidence threats over pension reform, but those efforts fell short. Bayrou's case may prove different because he himself has called for the vote, betting that confronting his opponents head-on will give him legitimacy, or at least clarity. This gamble carries enormous risk. Losing the vote could force his resignation and open the door for the opposition to attempt to form a government. It could also plunge France into months of instability, with early elections looming as a possible outcome. Meanwhile, the opposition smells opportunity. Olivier Faure and the Socialists have framed Bayrou as a leader clinging to power while ignoring the economic pain of French families. They argue that France needs a more redistributive economic model, higher investment in social services, and stronger protections for workers. The far-left France Unbowed has gone further, accusing Bayrou of betraying the working class and warning that his policies are indistinguishable from austerity. Faure, for his part, has been vocal about his ambitions. As Bayrou reminded viewers, Faure has openly declared his readiness to govern from Matignon. For the French public, the result is a confusing and high-stakes confrontation, one where the line between political strategy and national interest has blurred. Though Bayrou has insisted this is not about him personally, it is impossible to separate the man from the moment. A seasoned political figure, he has long styled himself as a centrist, capable of bridging divides between left and right. His career has been marked by resilience and reinvention, from running for president to serving in various governments. Now, at this critical juncture, he is asking the country to believe that his leadership is essential for France's stability. His opponents, however, argue that he is out of touch with a nation facing inflation, inequality, and widespread distrust of political institutions. As the countdown to the confidence vote continues, France is bracing for days of intense political drama. Behind closed doors, lawmakers are weighing their options, testing alliances and calculating risks. On the streets, ordinary citizens are left to wonder whether their government will survive or collapse into crisis. Bayrou's gamble is clear. By framing the vote as a referendum on France's destiny, he hopes to rally undecided lawmakers and the public. Yet the danger is equally clear. If he loses, his warnings will look like desperation rather than foresight. What happens on September 8th could echo far beyond the walls of the National Assembly. It could redefine France's economic policy, reshape its political alliances, and determine whether Bayrou's centrist vision still has a place in the Fifth Republic. For now, all eyes remain fixed on Paris, where the Prime Minister has thrown down the gauntlet. As François Bayrou himself put it, at issue is the fate of France.